Welcome back to another episode of the Brilliant Resilient Experience. This episode is brought to you by Aisling Med Spa, the ultimate destination for those pursuing peak performance in optimal health and wellness. Aisling Med Spa offers popular services including light stim, red light therapy, vitamin injections, functional health assessments, custom IV therapy, rejuvenating facials, dermaplane, and much more. Whether you are an athlete looking to improve performance and recovery, or someone who just wants to improve their overall health and well-being, Aisling Med Spa has a solution for you. I've been a proud customer of Aisling Med Spa for over a year, and it's so much more than just your average med spa. It's been absolutely vital to my overall health and wellness, and has completely leveled up my performance as well. Visit www.aislingmedspa.com and book your appointment today. Make sure to tell them that Bree sent you to receive 20% off of your first IV therapy. Located in New Melly, Missouri, Aisling Med Spa is your one-stop shop for your health and wellness needs. Today we have a very special guest. We've got a professional MMA fighter based right here in St. Louis, Missouri. He is coming off of an impressive TKO win over Dylan Tolbert in Nemesis Fighting Alliance. He went 6-0 as an amateur, and he's on an absolute tear as a pro. He has a 100% finish rate. He has an upcoming fight in LFA on March 29th, so I'm super excited to talk to him about his background in martial arts, how he got started, and what his goals are for the future. So let's go ahead and bring on Jesse Martinelli. For those who don't know, you train at ES MMA, which is also where I train. So I'm super excited to talk to you. Obviously, we've seen each other at the gym, but don't know a whole lot about you other than, just how you train, which I've seen you train, and that I'm impressed with in itself. But I know there's a lot more to your story, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. How I train is going in and getting that hour and a half or 2 hours of checkout time per day. I've been going to practice around 3 or 4 o'clock every day for since about 2008. I haven't took any time off, so
Jeez.
Coming into the gym around that time is just like it is for you probably. It's a brain break for me. You come in.
Yeah.
You know what to do. You don't really have to think about it. You kind of turn on autopilot and check out for the hour and a half and leave there a whole lot stress-free.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's exactly how I feel when I leave the gym. It's like whatever I was dealing with that day or whatever's going on in my life, it's usually that time that I get to kind of forget about all of it and just focus on what I'm doing and try not to get punched in the face. So
throwing straight punches and keeping your feet moving. That's all that you got to worry about for a couple hours or at least an hour or so, huh?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice. I
Exactly.
love the atmosphere ES has. We got a lot of great people there. I'm sure you've
Oh yeah.
I know you've had a couple on Austin and Logan and everyone else there. It's fun to come in and check out with those people every day.
Yeah, my goal is to get every single fighter from ES on my podcast at some point. So I'm sure by the end of the year that I'll probably be there.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're counting down the list right now. You got what 3 or 4 on in the past year. You'll be making their
I had Erik on too. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, I got to check that one with Rick. That'd be good.
Oh yeah,
it'd be good to see some.
He's the best.
Yeah, some behind the scenes non gym footage of Rick. I'd love it.
It's funny though, cause do you guys call him Rick? I've never heard anybody call him.
Oh, okay. So, actually, I'm the only person that regularly calls him Rick, but I don't know. I'll hear a couple people say it here and there. But what I took that from was I like to come out with shirt themes for my fights. Like my last one was what was it? Oh, it was December, so it was a Christmas fight night instead of a Christmas story.
Nice.
And I had a good idea of a Halloween one. I would come out as Morty, and Rick would come out as Rick.
Nice.
So he's the Rick to my Morty for the gym. That's where the Rick phrase comes from.
That's awesome. It threw me off for a second when you said it. I was like, wait, did he just call him Rick?
Wait, who's Rick?
Wait, I needed a second to process that.
I get that all the time from people at the gym. I'll be like, oh yeah, Rick was he was saying this about your teeps, or you're saying this about something, and they're like, who? Rick, man. Like, oh, Erik. Oh, okay, yeah, Erik. Yeah, I got you. I got you. So yeah, I like to give people nicknames.
That's awesome.
It's comforting, you know. It breaks down the barrier.
It does. Exactly. Yeah. Maybe one day you'll have a nickname for me.
You
I
know,
can't wait to
we're
find
sticking
out
with
what it
Bree
is.
for now.
Yeah, you can't force it.
That one's
It's got to
established.
just, yeah. So when did well, you said you started training every day in 2008. Is that when you started training, or did you start before that with martial arts?
Um, so I started wrestling whenever I was little, and like a lot of people in the sport,
Figured that.
yeah, I've started wrestling when I was young, but I also did a lot of other sports. You know, I did all the school sports. I tried some basketball. I tried soccer. I tried baseball, and none of them. I mean, they were fun to be an athlete and stuff, but I did motocross for a while. That was probably the biggest one that I was into before I started fully wrestling in high school. But
Nice.
I just dabbled in a lot of stuff, and then whenever I stopped racing motocross, wrestling was like the one sport that was kind of you know an individual sport, but you kind of had people there helping you as well. So it kind of matched, and I transitioned from that whenever I got into high school, and I haven't stopped wrestling since then. But I started MMA 2018 was my first fight when I was 25 years old. So I started relatively late, but with that being said, like I was doing wrestling
Yeah.
since I was younger. So it's a similar atmosphere and it's a similar training environment. So I
Oh
feel like I've
yeah.
been
I
doing
feel like
combat sports since 2008, but I really started fighting whenever I was 25 in 2018. So it
gotcha.
blends
Okay.
together.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like out of all the martial arts and out of all the combat sports, I feel like MMA and wrestling just tie in together so beautifully. More than probably any other martial art I could think of off the top of my head. I mean, I guess Sambo is probably number one,
For
but
sure.
wrestling's more popular
Yeah,
worldwide. So
exactly, and it's just it's one of those things where you look at people that played baseball in high school. They play baseball afterwards, or if they're trying to do a professional sport, they have their same sport that they
right,
go into, or vice versa for anything except kind of wrestling. Once you get to wrestling and you finish college, it's like, man, you better be really good in college to make it to the international circuit, or start fighting, which is what you see.
yeah,
90% of, I don't know the percentage. I don't know if that's a stat, but you see a large amount of wrestlers just transition into it because it's so familiar. It's the same grind every day, going into practice, checking in. You're doing hand to hand combat in some form against somebody,
yeah,
and yeah, I mean it's a seamless transition. So it made it pretty easy for me to decide that.
yeah. I feel like that is one of the most difficult disciplines to master also, so having a background in it definitely gives you an edge for sure when you
Yeah.
transition to MMA.
Oh, 100%. I feel like I spent, well, let's just say from the time I started consistently wrestling every day in 2008 to 2018 when I took my first fight, it was the same. It's the same grind that you do, that I do at Eric's every day, that I was doing whenever I was in high school, that I was doing whenever I was in college. And if you feel like, this is what I was going to say, you said you feel like it's similar, and it's such a good craft to master. But I feel like I took that entire time from 2008 to 2018, and I just started getting good at wrestling in 2016. So from 2008 to 2016, I was getting my butt whipped all up and down the room. And then I finally started to click, and then it's like, well, shoot, I'm done with wrestling now in 2 years. What else do I
Yeah,
do? MMA.
never satisfied.
Right. Keep. Hey, I like to tell a lot of people, I do this sport while I'm still physically able to, because
Yeah.
anyone that does it knows that it doesn't last forever. You're not physically able to do this
No.
sport forever. So while you still got a body good enough, and if you're healthy enough and you live a healthy lifestyle, take the chances while you can, because in 10 years, you dang sure ain't going to be able to take those chances.
Yeah, it's so true. And I feel like a lot of times people think that your longevity in this sport is limited because of the head trauma, which is true to an extent, but I think it's more so like the wear and tear on your body more than anything.
The head,
Just makes it very difficult to compete on a high level when you get to, your
yeah,
40s. It's like, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Especially if you've been in it since, some of these jujitsu guys, they've been in it since they were little kids. Some of these hardcore wrestlers, they've been in it. Some of the kickboxing people, they've been taking some head damage for a number of years, and it's like, man,
Yeah.
how long do I have once I switch over to this sport? And then once I switch to this sport, I better make a run while I still got a chance, because I got 5, 6, 7, maybe years, if that. And but it's cool. A lot of the stuff now that is, I don't know, kind of, I would say, easily, readily available for recovery and just overall longevity. It wasn't even heard of whenever I was a high schooler. It sure wasn't heard of whenever, you know, when Chuck and Tito were fighting back in 2000
Yeah.
something. So that's one thing that is nice about the sport, is the recovery systems have come such a long way, where it's awesome now to where when you're getting to be 35, 36, 37, you might still feel good like in your prime. Like Volk says, he still feels good, but how long will that be? You don't know,
Right.
but we're stretching it out as long as we can with these better recovery systems, and I take full advantage of them. I love them.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like too people are training smarter now than they used to. I mean, people used to just beat the crap out of each other. It seemed like
Just go fight. Just go fight
yeah,
to learn how
pretty
to fight.
much.
Yeah, yeah. Which is, I guess,
Yeah.
I people say there's a time and place for it, and I get there is, but you have to go into a fight like that in the training room with a partner that you can trust. And it's like,
Yes.
I have a handful of partners that I can trust, to where we're gonna push the envelope and we're gonna match each other's intensity. But as soon as
Yeah.
we're at each other's top intensity, one of us isn't gonna pull ahead 7 leaps and take
Right.
someone's head off. So that's an important part too. Having good partners, having people that you can trust, and like you say, training smarter. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I feel like that's one thing that we really do have a good handle on at ES too is like nobody's going in there trying to kill anybody like
Well, because
you know.
any of us could do it to the other one on any given day. It's if you
Yeah.
come in and you're feeling good, or if you come in and you're feeling average. It's like, I could have been feeling good yesterday, but I could be feeling average today. And if I was giving someone an unnecessary ass beating yesterday, well, I can expect that same thing back today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it is good. It's a good dynamic we have.
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you feel like fighting is more difficult physically or more difficult mentally?
Hmm.
I know that's a deep
No,
question,
I
so I'll
so
give you a
I
minute.
just I take it in two different directions. I could say both. So physically,
Yeah.
it would be harder for you physically if you were someone that grew up. Uh, well, so for example, just to give you a little background, like, I grew up. My dad was really big into sports. He was a marathon runner. He was a weightlifter, and he always just generally was conscious about health. Not that he was over the top, although, like, when I was a kid, I would say he was over the top. Sometimes it was just living a healthy lifestyle, to where whenever I got to high school wrestling, physical wasn't a part of it. It was
Yeah.
I had lived a healthy lifestyle up until then, uh, thanks to my dad. Not just because I'm a smart person or anything. He just put these rules in set, and it's like, okay, that's the stuff that we have available. That's the food I'm going to
Yeah.
eat, and it happened to be healthy. So for me, it was about figuring out that mental part where, well, I don't know. I figure the first time I thought about mental training was whenever I used to do runs for, cutting weight or just staying in shape in high school wrestling. That's where you kind of build that mental part. But I already had a physical, uh, a good physical foundation built.
Yeah.
So take that vice versa to someone else who maybe they grew up, I don't know the word, but maybe spoiled, right? Maybe they grew up a little spoiled and they didn't have the best diets, but they were told that they were, the greatest soccer
Hey, you're
player
doing great.
at Little League, or they were the best hockey player in their gym league, or whatever it was. They already got the mental built. They just got to work on their physical. So I guess it comes
Yeah.
from past experiences. Whatever your past experiences were, you're either going to have to work on your physical or your mental, or
Yeah.
maybe there's some people that have both, and those people are lucky. But yeah, I think it goes off of your past experiences, physical or mental.
Yeah, I agree. I think too it depends on what kind of person you are, cuz I think about, I mean, like Volkanovski is a perfect example, but also I could say, GSP is another great example of, someone who only wants to compete at the very highest level, and they put a lot of pressure on themselves, and I feel like I can definitely relate to that. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and
Mm,
usually more than anybody could ever put on me.
sure.
And I feel like a lot of fighters are the same way, especially at an elite level or somebody who wants to get to an elite level. I feel like that part of it mentally has got to be exhausting.
Yo, for sure. Well, two things there is like when you bring up someone like GSP, that's an entire lifestyle change. I mean, he changed the
Oh,
game
yeah.
of ways to train, ways to recover, ways to tactically approach a fight, and then oh shoot, I just had another thought. Whatever you were saying there, but yeah, basically, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. There's people that take it as a lifestyle change, and then there's people that take it as like I'm getting into this sport to have fun, and it's kind of cool, and I feel, it builds my confidence when I do it, and like you say, it's just what level of seriousness are you going to take the sport? And it's cool
Exactly.
because
And
sorry,
some people don't know how to not take it serious. Like some people just that's just what happens. Like no matter what, they
yeah,
they could be like, "Oh, it's just a fight, no big deal." But in the back of their mind, they're like, "I better freaking win this."
yeah, yeah. We've all met people like that. I've had I've
Yeah.
had a guy and multiple people I went to high school with, I went to college with, that I wrestled with. And the only thing they cared about when they showed up was looking at the bracket, looking at who's in their weight class, looking at if they win, they face them, looking at if they lose, they'll face them. And meanwhile, they didn't take the time to worry about getting a good warm up, getting their lungs blown out, uh, keeping their feet moving, faking, pulling on the head, things that you can control. And I guess that just goes back to like how serious you take it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of fighters too that are very good at a lot of advanced things, but they're not as good at like the very basic things. And I feel like a lot of the greatest fighters that we see, they're not necessarily always the most technical or the most fancy, I guess you could say is a better way to say it.
Mm,
But a lot of times they've really just mastered the basics. And of course, you have your Anthony Pettis who can do like all these
sure,
crazy kicks and stuff like that.
sure.
And he got to a very high level doing so. But yeah, a lot of there's so many great fighters. I always talk about Ankalaev as an example of someone who's just really, really good
Yeah.
at the basics of everything.
Well,
Not very entertaining to the casual fans, but
mm,
man can crush in any single area just with basics.
right. And look at the main event this past weekend. Like
Yeah.
Toporia's basics in boxing, or or that's that's a that's a beautiful thing to watch, man. He doesn't make a
Oh
mistake in
gosh.
his
Yeah.
stand up. He doesn't make a mistake in his head movement. He doesn't, and that's all basic stuff. That if you go to you go to a boxing 101 class, you're going to hear that, but putting it into
Yep.
action is like, that's a different thing than just hearing somebody tell you it. So, yeah, I mean, and it
Yeah.
goes back to, I used to coach wrestling, and I think the biggest thing from coaching wrestling that I see younger kids or beginners jump higher levels at is when they master their body mechanics. They're not mastering a high crotch double off or a single leg cutback or a front headlock. They're mastering how to move their body when someone's in on a shot. They're mastering how to move their hips in when they're in on a shot, and that's all basic stuff. I used to teach that to 4, 5, and 6 year olds, and they could comprehend it, but it was the ones that master it that now they're jumping levels and they're doing well at whatever it is, state tournaments. They're doing well at national tournaments. They're doing well wherever they are because they got those basics built in. And then the other stuff
Oh, yeah.
comes after that.
It does. Yeah, because you don't want to, jump the gun. And, like, I feel like that's why I was, like, kind of hesitant, too, to, like, start doing kickboxing. Because I was like, well, I really want to, like, get solid with boxing. And then I want to
Then learn
start
to add
training
kicks.
kickboxing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm like, I feel like if I try to do too much at once and I suck at all of it, I'm like, then my progress is going to be so slow.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, you bring a good point up. It's you gotta have some basics of something first. But
Yes.
another little side route that reminds me of is people will put off practicing their opposite side, right? Because they
Mm-hmm.
don't master their lead side or
Yeah.
whatever they're off, southpaw or orthodox. And the other side that they go to, they'll put off trying to get comfortable, at least throwing some basic combos, a 2-3 or a 1-2 to the body or whatever it is. They'll put off trying to just get at least a general understanding of
Something.
how to do
Yeah.
that. And then whenever they need to do it, it's like, oh crap,
Yeah.
I've never done this before. How do I do this now to save me from getting my leg chopped off in this fight? So I think
Yeah.
mastering your basics is obviously a path for success, but also being able to uh, being able to adjust on the fly and switch something up and still be somewhat decent at it, be somewhat effective with it is that's as big as a part of mastering your basics, I think.
I agree. Yeah, and I do kind of wish too that I would have started sooner. Um Even though I am glad that I did focus on boxing because I don't think I would have developed the same skills that I did if I would have tried to do too many things at once.
Mm,
So I am glad that I focused on it primarily for a while, but now I'm like, man, I wish I would have started trying to do kicks sooner
yeah.
because now
When
I'm like, man, I suck.
yeah, it takes years, right? To where you feel like, oh, I'm kind of getting the groove. When
Yeah,
did
it'll be
you
at least 2 years before I probably feel confident in my kicking game for
Yeah,
sure.
when did you throw your first punch at a kickboxing gym?
That was. I say what?
At maybe not your first punch on third grade recess, but like your first punch at a kickboxing gym or a boxing gym.
Oh, I remember exactly. It was at St. Charles MMA. I went to the boxing sparring. My partner had not
First
shown up yet.
first one, you went to a boxing sparring.
That's the first time I ever got punched in the face. Yeah.
Sheesh. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting into. And I had only been training there for like 2 months, but I was like I want to spar,
Let's try it.
And
Yeah.
my friend at the gym, she wanted to spar. And God, I miss training with her. She was so much fun. She only came like every once in a while. Like she would like come for a couple months and then she'd be gone and then
Take a little break.
So we
Yeah.
didn't get to train all the time. But I loved training with her because like we were both about the same size, and so we
Yeah.
could kind of go a little harder,
Yeah.
and it was fun. And we were both kind of at the same skill level too, like with boxing. Like she had more of a martial arts background than me, but with boxing we were both kind of at the same level. But I remember she was running late, so I just hopped in, and Clayton Whaley was my partner, and I knew who he was, but I had never trained with him before. And so like as soon as I got partnered up with him, I was like, look, I've never been punched in the face before. He's like, don't worry. He's like, I'm not going to kill you.
Yeah,
And I was
we're gonna
like,
have some
okay,
fun
cool.
rounds. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to have someone like that on your first sparring day where you
Yeah.
can kind of take a
Then my
breath.
partner showed up, so I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Because it was all guys in there. There was no women, and it was just me and Brinley were like the only girls there. And then I kept showing up though because I had fun. And I did spar with a lot of the guys. I sparred with heavyweights. I sparred with whoever would spar with me. So it was fun. But I'm ready to get back into that too at some point. But I want to try to learn kickboxing. So we'll see.
You've been practicing your kicks?
Yeah. They're not very good, but I think I made a little bit of progress.
One day
bit.
after another, right? One day after another. They get a little bit better each time.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned this earlier with like your body kind of breaking down as you get older, and that's why I regret not starting it sooner. Because I never had any problems with like injuries and stuff before. Like I never had pain, like joint pain. Now I have just joint pain all the time.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, I know what you're talking about. I feel it in my shoulders, my knees, and sometimes one shoulder or one elbow or the other. So ankles, I could go onto my ankles. I mean, my back,
same,
my neck.
yeah.
It's a beating on the body, but you know, you're gonna get hurt you're gonna get old, I should say. You're gonna get old someday or another, and you're gonna be deteriorating. So why not have fun while the body can still have it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, when did you first get punched in the face?
Oh man. Honestly, I can't remember, but the first time I remember being punched in the face was probably like 6th or 7th grade, you know, just getting into fights we would go to the football games, and of course, like smaller people like me, we didn't do very well in football. I never even tried out for football just because I knew like this isn't gonna go well. So the smaller people like me, maybe the wrestlers, you would say, we would play games, play some games where we tackle each other with bottles or something, and then you get into it with the kid, and then you say, "Hey, let's go over there and fight," you know. So I had a couple good fights whenever I was young, and then with gloves on and actual training, when I was in high school, I had a buddy that was doing MMA, and he wanted to start wrestling with me because he heard it was good for MMA, and this is probably 2008, 9, maybe 2010. So it's like it really wasn't popular. It was like
that was before I got into it.
He would have fights up at like the Arnold Eagles Lodge. He would have fights at like DeSoto Eagles Lodge, stuff like that. Real small promotions, but it was just kind of, hey, you guys want to fight? Sign up, come up and fight. And so I would train wrestling with him, and then he would say, like, you know, you want to do some sparring? You want to try to like actually fight? So we would do a couple rounds, and and not knowing really what to do, we would start the clock, and it just went full wrestling mode for me. I'm like leaned over my knee, boom, he popped me with an uppercut or something, or jab me 3 or 4 times in the face while I'm trying to shoot on him. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, but yeah, it was pretty young. I got into some fights. I got into some training without any training myself, and found my way. I found myself learning on the job really early.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that's the best way to learn. For some people. Yeah. I feel like it's like some people, they can study things and they can really like take their time learning. I'm the type person, and you're probably the type of person where you just got to do it. And
100%.
that's how you learn.
Yeah. you screw it up enough times, then you learn how to do it right. You know, you go and hit. That's
Yeah.
what I used to tell a lot of the young wrestlers. Like, you go and hit a double leg the wrong way 10 times and get your head stuffed in the mat. Eventually, on the 11th or 12th or 13th one, you're going to start getting your hips in. You're going to start driving across with your head, and you're going to start finishing. So, yeah, you
Yeah.
just mess it up enough, and I think that's with everything in life. That's not just fighting or not just
Oh
wrestling. It's
yeah.
like you probably started this pod and you screwed a
Had
couple
no
things.
idea what I
Yeah,
was
you
doing.
mess it up a couple times, you figure it out, you make it better, and
Messed it up a couple hundred times.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it gets better each time, right? That's what I say a lot about the weight cuts with MMA. It's
Yes.
try it, it's a little bit hard. You try it again, it's a lot harder. You try it again, change some stuff, and yeah, you figure it out along the way. That's what we do.
100%.
As long as you're smart,
Yeah.
as long as you're smart, you don't keep going and making the same mistake over and over.
Yeah, we don't want to give the wrong impression. You got to be smart too. You can't just do anything.
Somewhat smart.
Yeah, at least a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta
Just a
have a
little bit.
shred.
I do feel like that is an underrated aspect of being a mixed martial artist, being a fighter in general, is being smart. Like, I feel like sometimes people forget like how mental this sport is. And it's like,
Oh
dude,
yeah.
all like especially at a high level, like all that goes into it, you know, you're not only getting in there and fighting, but you're having to research your opponent, you're having to watch film, you're having to, work on your own things, you're having to figure out a game plan, or if you have an opponent change, then you got to start all over again. It's like, God, there's so much that goes into
Right.
it mentally. It's a
Well,
lot.
not only that, it's being focused on what you're doing at the specific time, because you can go
Yeah.
into practice 5 days a week and put your gloves on and do your block drills, and you can do your return drills and kind of have a conversation about the fights on the weekend and go through the motions, and then practice is over and it's like, all right, I did the same thing that I did last Monday, the Monday before, and the Monday before that. Or you can go in there and say, for example, I got a good partner in Corey Beck at the gym, where me and him will push each other in the drills that we're doing, to where it's like, okay, Corey was tagging me with this shot over and over and over last week, and I was trying to keep my stance. I wasn't switching. So maybe I need to start switching and changing angles when he's throwing this, or whatever it is. You go in there with a little bit of an outline to what your practice or what your technique training is going to be, and I think that's how you level up. I mean, you don't just go into practice day in and day out expecting to get better by doing the same thing.
Oh yeah. And it's so easy to do that too, to just kind of feel like you're going through the motions, and maybe sometimes that's all you can do. At least you're showing up. But yeah, the progress isn't really made unless you have to be present when you're training.
Yeah.
I think that's huge. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, I seen you remember do you remember Claudia Gadelha?
Oh yeah.
She had a post one time on Instagram, and I remember it. I'll never forget it. It was basically what I was just saying. It was focus on the task at hand. Focus on being present in what you're doing. Focus on what you're doing, and not, crap, I gotta get home and get this work done before 8 o'clock tomorrow before work, or I gotta do whatever. I gotta get my dog a bath. I gotta do something
Yeah.
besides focusing on my training, and all that doesn't matter while you're in there for an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it is, and so yeah, I mean that's huge. Just focusing on what you're doing, which it sounds like
Yeah.
focus on what you're doing. Yeah, that's pretty obvious, but most of the
It's
time,
harder than it sounds.
most of the time, you're not focused 100% on what you're doing. Like right now,
No.
I'm talking to you, but I have this 300 card pulled up, and I can't wait to ask you about. I can't wait to ask you about this.
He came ready.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to ask you about this that I just seen earlier tonight. But what I was saying was, I'm talking to you, and this still has my attention. So it is harder to focus on what you're doing, only
Oh
on
my
what you're
God,
doing,
yeah.
solely on what you're doing at a time.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many times at the gym I've caught myself, staring off in the distance and I'm thinking about stuff and I'm like, nope, 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 shut it out.
Don't need to
Shut
be
it
thinking
down.
about that right now.
Get it out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to literally tell myself. And it's like, why is this so hard? Why can't I just focus? It's so annoying. But
You know what you need?
it's
You need some lion's mane mushroom extracts,
probably.
some cordyceps mushroom extracts.
Actually, lion's mane, I think, is the only one I haven't tried.
Oh,
I've tried the other ones.
it's great for just like taking that breath of
Really?
like, okay, let me just settle my nerves down and kind of focus my
Yeah.
energy into one thing. So yeah, try some. That's really good.
I'll try some. Yeah. I've heard great things. I know Joe Rogan talks about it all the time. So.
Oh yeah.
And I love bro science, so I'm like, yeah, hell yeah.
It's it's total bro science, but it's a cool kind. It has good benefits, so I'm one to believe that.
It's so funny because, like, I'm very aware that, like, I definitely am into a lot of bro sciencey stuff. And people think I don't know. I'm like, dude, I know this isn't real science. I'm like, trust me. But I'm like, but it
But
works
it's still
for me,
interesting.
so.
Yeah, it's still interesting to read and then test
Oh,
out and
yeah.
experiment. Like, oh, let me see. Do I feel better when I take this? Do I
Yeah.
not notice anything when I take this? So yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun.
Because if it works, then it's like, well, science is going to tell me it works within a matter of time, anyways.
Right.
It just takes longer for them
Yep.
to figure it out.
Yep. let's just guinea pig ourselves up. See if it works.
Scientists are too slow. I'm impatient.
yeah. Got to be patient. Be patient, like Ian Gary says. Be patient.
Yeah. So I'm actually really excited for UFC 300. People, it's funny. I did a whole like video on UFC 300 when they announced some of the fights, and people like were so mad at me that I thought it was a good card, and
It's so
which is so funny.
So
me.
if you took this card and you put it on, you put it on the what's the Instagram when UFC posts the card on their Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you posted that and put it on Instagram right now, it would be like one of those cards where people say like most banger card, low key banger, UFC 300 worthy, whatever the headline is. They would be like, this is an insane card. But just because everybody hyped it up, now they're like, what? Jamal Hill, Alex Pereira? Oh my gosh, what is this? No, I think it's awesome. But let me just ask you
I think it's great.
one question, because you might have some
I
insight.
was going to put together a compilation of the number of times that I said Pajeda was going to be in the main event because nobody listened to me.
Oh, so
I have receipts.
You're calling it then, huh?
100%. I called it.
Yeah, he's a star, man. He's definitely big enough to. Without Jamal Hill, he's big enough to headline that against somebody else. But him versus Jamal Hill, that's an insane fight.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I mean, look at both of their fighting style. That's crazy. But
crazy.
Let me get some lowdown on this. Because right here it says Gaethje versus Holloway is on the card, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I scroll down and it says Gaethje versus Holloway is canceled.
What?
Is there any truth to that?
When it says canceled, is it a 3-round fight that's showing up?
Let me check on it. 35, height, weight, reach.
Because I think possibly what happened was that it was originally booked as a 3-round fight, and then I think they canceled that and rebooked it as 5 rounds.
Because I don't know if you pull cards up on regular old Google, but whenever you pull it up, it still has them on there, like I say, right under Weili Zhang, Yan Xiaonan. So it looks like it's still on, but then just scrolling through it, I saw it was canceled. So I was like, oh my God, did we lose another great fight from this
Oh,
card?
that'd be heartbreaking.
Oh, it would be the worst. But
And
let's
then
just hope.
Volkanovski shows up on 2 seconds notice.
Right. He's like, I'm ready to go, mates. Old folks back. Yeah, that wouldn't be surprising. But let's just hope that it's what you said. They canceled the 3 rounds. They're going with
I
the
think
5.
that's what it is.
Let's hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think that's what happened. I'm just assuming, because otherwise, I'd be pretty upset if they canceled that one, because I'm really looking forward to that.
Or they just canceled it last night and they're like, all right, Max.
Yeah.
Topuria needs an opponent in Spain. You're going.
I keep up pretty well with MMA news, so I feel like I would have known for sure. I would have had at least like 3 people message me, so like by now, if it was canceled.
What's the top
sure.
MMA news sites that you like to check?
If you want to know like updates on fights really quickly, follow Big Marcel on Instagram. Marcel Dorf, I think, is his full name. He usually updates them quicker than anybody else I've seen, and they're verified.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like when Ariel Hawani says they're gonna, do some big fight, and then it never. Oh my God, I got so mad about it the other day. I was like, "Come on, man! Like, we know that's not gonna be the main event. Quit lying."
Do you? How do you feel about Ariel?
I have a lot of respect for Ariel because he kind of created a blueprint, I feel like, for a lot of journalists, and he definitely his work is insane. I mean, look at all the interviews that he's done, and I mean, gosh. Yeah, I do think there are a lot of young upcoming journalists, just like the fighters have evolved. I think the journalism has evolved too in media, in MMA, both in a good way and a bad way.
I was gonna say for better and worse. For better and worse, for sure. Some of these journalists out here nowadays, you wonder, like, man, have you ever watched a regional fight or
no? Yeah, I know.
Have you watched any of the past cards in the past 12 months or? But yeah, no.
Yes.
Ariel's the man. He's the man for sure.
I feel like journalist is a very loose term now. Like, I don't even really call myself a journalist, but I've had other journalists tell me I am a journalist. So I'm like, okay, I guess I can't, I can say it now.
You're doing the work.
But
you might not have the degree, but you're doing the work, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Same as me. Whenever I got into this sport, I was like, I'm a wrestler. Like, oh no, you're a MMA fighter. No, bro, I'm a wrestler. I take people down and I beat them up. So if you want to call me a fighter, cool, but I'm a wrestler. And you slowly transition out of that, but it goes hand in hand.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Before we move on.
Yeah.
Alex Pereira, Jamal Hill. Was it something that you couldn't handle as a fan?
What was your question again?
The fans can't handle this, Dana says. We're working on something that you guys are not going to be able to understand. He comes out with Alex Pereira, Jamal Hill.
I forgot he said that.
Yeah. He said you can't handle it. It's like, oh shit, man.
I think he had an original plan.
Is
that
DJ
didn't
coming
work
back
out.
to fight freaking Brandon Moreno? Is Islam moving up to fight Leon, which would have been sweet.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
That would have been.
Sorry, Bilal.
That would have been something. Like my mind's blown. But Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill, it just seems like, all right, that's a dope fight. But I feel like there were some loose ends that weren't tied up. What do you think? Yeah,
I think Dana probably felt the pressure from the fans to announce something, say something before he had anything even planned out.
Right.
Because Jamal's coming off an injury, so, there was a lot of probably like dancing around, waiting, seeing if that's actually going to happen before signing the dotted line.
Right, and not even just an injury, like
Bad
serious injury where
Yeah.
him coming back at, what was it, UFC Rio in 2 weeks, right?
Is
or
that in
or
2
1
weeks?
week. I want to
Oh,
say
shoot.
it's in a couple weeks. He was coming back in a couple weeks.
Soon.
And still, it was kind of like, dang, Jamal's coming back already. All right, he had a good
Right.
recovery. So to expedite the process a couple weeks is like, I feel like something had to be done here. But yeah, it's a banger card. I can't wait. What's your favorite card? What's your favorite fight on the card? Number one that you're looking forward to?
Oliveira versus Sarukian. Definitely.
Dang, that's a good one, Alexander. Yeah.
Because I feel like whoever wins that has to be next for the 155 title, for sure.
Charles Sarukian. But what if Gaethje wins?
If Gaethje wins, oh, that makes it complicated.
He could jump.
That definitely
Whoever
makes it
wins
complicated.
Yeah.
I think it depends on who wins. If Sarukian beats Oliveira, he definitely should get a title shot, I feel like. Because Sarukian has fought Islam before and actually kind of put up a tough fight, and he was young.
What was it? Did it go to a decision?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was on short notice, so it's like, he's got
and he took Islam down.
Right, so he's got to stake to that claim where it's like, hey man, give me my reshot, a full camp.
Right.
I can't wait to see Davison Figueiredo, Cody Garbrandt.
I can't wait for all of them, honestly.
Yeah, I can't wait for the whole card. But
that's a banger fight too.
The Garbrandt Figueiredo, it's just, I want to see where you at, Cody. Where you at right now, Cody? It's gonna be
Figueiredo at bantamweight. It's
that
different.
too, because who did he fight when he first came up?
I believe it was Rob Font.
Yeah, that's right. He looked great against Rob Font.
And he looked fantastic, and Rob Font is good.
Yeah.
Really good.
And Rob Font is a 35er. I feel like Cody is a 25er that doesn't cut a lot of weight when he's at 35. So it'll be interesting to see him against someone somewhat his size. And I like Cody. So.
And they're both former champions, too.
Yeah, that too. I mean, most of this card is former champs or prospects that are looking to become champs. So it's going to be dope.
Yeah, and I know Holly Holm is 42 years old. I get it, guys. I get it. But people don't understand the story behind this fight with her and Kayla Harrison, because people are going to automatically assume that Holly Holm is going to lose this fight. And obviously Harrison is a huge favorite for a reason. I mean, her judo is insane. But at the same time, people were counting Holm out against Rousey, and Rousey's also got a judo background.
Yeah.
So the story is so fun.
Also, if you look at Kayla's striking, I mean, the difference between Kayla's, the difference
it's nowhere
is
near Holly Holm, though.
Yeah,
not
it's
even
nowhere
close.
near. But it's like, I feel like Kayla's learned how to close them distances. I feel like Ronda was, solely, I'm going to take you down and armbar you. So, yeah, it's similar, but it's also like, and Kayla Harrison's 16-1. I don't know what Ronda was when she fought Holly, but she definitely didn't have 17 fights on her record, at least pro fights. So
that wasn't very common in women's MMA.
No, I mean, they were just coming out of Strikeforce. They probably had 5-6 fights at the most, maybe 3 more in UFC. So 8-10 fights maybe.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a sweet fight. It's going to be a sweet card.
And all of Harrison's fights have been in PFL. All of them.
Well, there was
I think
one,
except one in Invicta.
In Invicta, yeah. Oh my gosh, do you remember that fight?
No.
It was like a Halloween massacre because she finally got to use elbows, and all she did was take that girl down and sit on her and cut her up with elbows. So, I mean, yeah, she's dangerous. Holly's dangerous. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Can't wait for it.
I can't wait. I'm probably would lean toward Harrison, but Holm, she's surprised me so many times that it's so hard to count her out.
Yeah, you can't count her out
at this point.
Yeah.
No. She's got hands too. She's the only boxing champion that has gone on to be a UFC champion, even in all of combat sports.
Oh, not just women's, huh?
Yeah.
Props to her. You can't
Because
take anything away from her.
If Francis could pull off getting a title in boxing, then he could be the second person to have a title in boxing and UFC.
Yeah.
But
no,
it's crazy. She's the only one.
All right. Better card, $299 or $300?
Oh, 300.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were some great fights on 299. And then 298, I feel like, was really good. Except my only complaint about 298, every single fight was awesome. Except I didn't like the Ian Gary Jeff Neal fight.
I hear that. I mean, I hear that from.
I mean, I understand it because looking at the matchup, that's kind of how I expected it to play out.
Right.
But
it's like you can't blame Ian for going in there and having the strategy that he did.
Yeah.
But yeah, watching it as a fight, it just felt like we were in a, what's it called? We're in the Twilight Zone where it's like this sequence just keeps happening over and over and over. Ian creates some distance. Jeff walks at him with his hands down like, "Come here, little brother, I'm gonna whoop you." And then he pushes him into the cage, and it's like, "All right, let's do it again. Let me circle off." So yeah, I get it. That was kind of a boring fight, but
yeah, I mean, I'm still impressed with Ian Gary. Honestly, I know it was like a close. I didn't think it was that close, but a lot of people thought it was really close.
I didn't think it was close. I mean, if you looked at those,
I didn't either.
like, aside from his distance control and his distance management, the dude, he had a couple combos that he was throwing all night. That rear knee to the rear elbow was money.
Yes.
He landed it multiple times.
Yeah.
He's obviously longer, so he stuck him with the jab a lot. It was like, it was a slow fight, but it was rather easy to judge, I think. But somebody thought,
for sure.
One of those guys thought different.
Yeah. Well, who do you think that he should fight next? I keep seeing people saying he should fight Colby. I think that's a horrible matchup.
I think he's running from people like Sean Brady. He's running from people like Shavkat.
Yeah.
Because
I think him versus Shavkat would be a better matchup than Colby. Stylistically, at least.
I mean, for him, like stylistically, for him, I would think that he would want to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just watching him in some interviews and stuff, you can tell he's picking his words wise, where he's saying, I want Colby next. I want him because this. I don't like Sean Brady. I don't like whoever. I don't like Shavkat because this reason. And it's like, well, hold on now. Why don't you like them? Because you've been calling out a lot of these older guys that are towards the peaks or over the peaks of their career. And there's some young hungry dudes that are wanting to come test themselves against you. Why don't you take that test? But yeah, I think he's playing his cards right, and I think he's smart. He's obviously smart in the way he runs his career, right? So you'd have to be silly not to think that he's doing the same thing with picking the right matchup. Because I'll tell you what, I don't know how he does against Sean Brady, but if I'm betting my money,
I don't think he beats Sean Brady. I think that's easy work for Sean.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think
could be wrong.
That Sean would love that fight.
Right. Oh, 100%. 100%. He would love it. But
all he's got to do is get him to the ground.
Yeah,
he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is another interesting thing. It's like, I can't wait to see someone finally take Ian Gary down if they're able to, right? Props to him. He's got great takedown defense, but it's like everybody. You want to see you want to see what they do in areas that they haven't been tested in, and that's somewhere we haven't got to see him, where he's put on his back and kept there for a long amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, he does have a judo background, but that's not going to help him out if he's on his back.
Right. If he's sitting in half guard, it's like, what's the game plan then? So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's something, getting back to you, that's something I noticed about you is that obviously you've got the wrestling background, which I kind of figured you had some background in wrestling just based off of, your technique. But I feel like you also have great stand up, and the way that you mix it up too is really what I think is a key to the success that you've been having, because when I watched your fight with Dylan, there were a lot of moments in that fight that I feel like you were able to throw the ground and pound and throw elbows from different positions was one thing that I noticed. And also just, well, I mean, your takedowns are beautiful, which that comes from the wrestling. but, but like I said, the way you mix it up in ground and pound is so much trickier than people think too, because if you're fighting someone who's very active on the bottom, like Dylan was, moving around a lot, trying to, get in different positions. And so you had to throw, like, there was one point you had, like, your leg wrapped around one of his legs, but you weren't in, like, full mount. You were, like, kind of, like, in this weird, like, I don't know what to call it.
Oh, I know
And
what you're
then you were
talking about.
throwing
Yeah,
elbows.
where it was almost a man. I want to call it a knee staple from like rear, where you don't take their back, but you're kind of knee stapling the bottom. So it's
Yeah.
almost like a reverse half guard, where you're stapling the knee, the leg with your knee, rather than kind of reaping and hooking it. And yeah, I mean all that just goes back to my wrestling, and mainly my wrestling as a coach. Whenever I got to learn by wrestling with these high schoolers that were good at wrestling and good at scrambling through positions, but I wasn't ever really in danger. So it was more of playing with the position and feeling where you're at, what works in this position, where I can't put my weight, where I can, weight distribution, and
Yeah.
really just learning to scramble, because that's something that if you talk to anyone that wrestles or wrestles in MMA, it's as soon as you get taken down, that's the best time to get your base. That's the best time to start building up to your feet, or whatever the case may be. If you get taken down and you sit there for 5 seconds or 10 seconds, that 10 seconds is going to turn into 20 or 30, because they've settled their weight, they got their position in, whether it's a underhook, whether it's a Turk with the leg, whatever it is. The longer you sit there on the bottom, the more settled you're going to be, right? So
Right.
going into that scrambling, and that shoot, that goes all the way back to high school wrestling, where we used to do what they call them, constant motion drills, right? Where it's just chain wrestling, but it's
Right.
having that not quit in you, where it's like, shit, I'm in a really bad position right now, but if I submit and give this person this position, I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to get up.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that served me well in pretty much all my fights. Um, I've gotten taken down. I don't know how many times. I've been taken down maybe like 2 or 3 times in my fight career,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that might be a stretch. I think maybe two. But it's
Well,
as soon as I get taken down, it's like, get to your butterflies, man. Get to an underhook, whatever the case may be. Don't stop moving, and usually
yeah.
that creates enough space, or that creates the opportunity to get to an escape, or get to your feet, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I could tell that your wrestling was very advanced just based off that performance alone.
One more thing on that is, it's because I'll spar with people I'll get taken down in sparring,
Mm-hmm.
and it's it's a celebration. They're like, I took you down. Woo! I got you, man. And it's like, no, that's okay. That's all right. I'm wrestling. I'm fighting in a way to where I'm not afraid to get taken down, because I know as soon as I get taken down, we're in a wrestling transition. And when you start a wrestling transition, I'm not going to stop. And 90% of the time, the person that doesn't stop in wrestling comes out on top, right? So scrambling through them positions, like I say, not being afraid to get taken down, because you know you have an avenue here or an avenue there to get yourself out of that position is what I guess it's what makes you confident in taking risks or putting yourself at risk to get taken down or get the takedown.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there are so many good wrestlers now in MMA that a lot of times, it's not like it used to be where it's like, oh, it's a wrestler versus striker. It's like kind of everybody has a little bit of knowledge and experience in wrestling now as MMA fighters. So, they might not have that same level as you, but they still are going to know enough to where, they may be able to take you down. And then, you got to be ready for, whatever's about to happen and make sure that you get back up.
Yeah.
Because once you get taken down, if you're on your back, I mean, not only are you in danger, but you're probably going to lose the round.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the worst part.
Well, I mean, look at Marab and Henry this weekend, right? who, if they put on a singlet and they put on some butt kicking boots and they went out to wrestle,
Yeah.
who would score the more points? Who would probably win the wrestling match? You'd probably think Henry would win, right?
Yeah.
But you look at their fight and you think to yourself, like, well, this guy obviously can't wrestle as good as Marab. So it's mixing it all together. I guess goes back to what you were
Yeah.
saying, mixing it all together. It's when to strike, when to secure your position, when to advance your position. It's timing and mixing it all together makes it fun. That's why we love it, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And with it being, the 5-minute rounds, you also have to take that into account because you could be like in a perfect position, but only have 20 seconds left.
Oh
And then
yeah.
you're like,
Oh,
cool. So,
what was I gonna? I was just thinking something there. You touched on it. Oh, I don't
I know I do the same thing. I
know.
forget my thoughts so quickly.
Yeah, no, it's all
That's why
good. I
this is
need a
so
little,
hard.
need a little notepad here to write down. But yeah, it's wrestling. It's keeping moving. It's
Yeah.
why we love it.
Yeah. I feel like so many more fighters now that are so good at mixing it up too. It's almost like a new style. Is like it used to be like, oh, you're a kickboxer, you're a boxer, you're a wrestler. Now there's people who are just really good mixed martial
All
artists.
around mixed martial artists
And
and or really
yeah.
good cage wrestlers or you know
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. It's like this person has an expertise in this area, and they're pretty good in all of these areas. So
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah, I want to say that's what I was going to say about Henry and Marab was you look at Henry and he's an expert in the wrestling area, but it's like
Yes.
Marab's damn near the same level uh, of good in wrestling as Henry, but he's
Yes.
also got the machine, the motor to just go like a machine and
Oh my god.
mix it
That's why
up.
he's the
So it's like
machine.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, 100%. I mean, you can't really be a specialist in the sport anymore. It's almost like you have to be a
It's hard.
specialist at something and damn good at everything else to get to that
I
top level.
know. I know, and that's why I hope that fighter pay starts to go up because I see the amount of work that it takes now to be good at all of those areas. And, it's just. And I don't want to be one of those people who's constantly complaining about fighter pay because I know some people do that. Uh,
Of
but
course,
but
I'll
it's
join them.
but
I'll
it's
join them.
it's really but it's because I know how many hours it takes to be able to compete, not even on a professional level anymore, even at an amateur level. Now,
Oh yeah,
it's insane.
I don't know who I was talking to the other day, but I was just telling them. They were looking at. I think maybe they were looking at my upcoming fight. They were like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he looks like he's pretty good, but he did da 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 against this guy, and I think you can capitalize on a position here if you do this. And it's like, man, this dude's probably damn near as good as I am, if not the same. And it's just how the fight plays out on the night. It goes back to
Yes.
like looking at the top guys on each division. If we're looking at the UFC, like, you think Sandhagen can't beat Cheeto if Cheeto somehow gets a win over O'Malley? And in all those cases, Merab can't just come in and beat the one that wins it all. So it's like everybody is so good. You better be good. And this goes back to what GSP used to talk about is there's technical, there's no. There's physical. You have to be physically fit, right? You got to be physically able to move your body in the right position. And then there's
Yeah.
technical, which is like technique on my boxing, technique on my wrestling, technique on my jiu-jitsu. And then there's tactical, which I want to say a lot of the regional fighters probably don't take into consideration,
Mm-hmm.
where they're going to go out there and they're going to say, I'm going to stick to this strategy no matter how hard I get punched in the forehead whenever I try slipping or ducking. I'm going to stick to this tactical routine, because if I do this over the course of 1 or 2 rounds, then I know my openings will be there, or my opportunities will present themselves to finish this fight. Where there's no way you're going to find that opportunity in the first round when you're both fresh, when you're both dry. Yeah, so it's just it's the sport evolving like right in front of us, and it's awesome because we don't, at least me, any sport that I've ever done has never been so young to where you
Yeah.
see a level from 5 years ago and a level from today where it's like this is unrecognizable. Like, yeah,
It's insane.
yeah, that's just what it is. The sport's evolving. The sport's so young, and people are just getting
Yeah.
better and better. I mean,
Oh my
again,
God, I
again,
know.
look at Topuria this weekend. The way that dude fights, he is
Yeah.
one of the new breeds of this MMA fighter.
Yes. He is. And not a lot of MMA fighters have that high of a skill level in boxing. And I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with Holly Holm. I mean, she's the only boxing champion to ever become a UFC champion. Really, I think she's actually the only boxing champion to fight in the UFC that I can think of, off the top of my head. But we don't
Was
see a ton of boxers transition to MMA.
No, was Hermes
So,
Franca a champion? Do you remember him, Hermes Franca? And
mm,
I might be thinking of the wrong guy, but there was a there was a
I
decent
don't
boxer that
remember.
came over and he got pieced up anyway. So to serve your point, yeah, you're right. There's no one that has done it. Clarissa
Yeah, if
Shields.
she ever goes to the UFC, then she would be the second boxing champion
Be
to go to
interesting.
the UFC.
She's trying to do
That
it
I mean,
bold.
Kayla Harrison's doing it, so she's got a blueprint. Um, yeah, that would be crazy if she ended up in the UFC. I would love to see it.
Yeah,
I really like Clarissa Shields.
I doubt it though,
Yeah,
because
she's
she's trying to
talented.
do both, back and forth.
Yeah, that's got to be hard.
Yeah,
That's a lot of training.
UFC says no bueno to that. You're either locked up under us, or you're not signed with us.
Yeah, I hope that changes at some point where they can at least box in addition to,
It'd be so cool. Johnny Eblin
or
was,
raise the fighter pay.
yeah, that. But just uh, speaking of that, Johnny Eblin was just talking about that. I don't know, a month ago, 2 months ago, where it's like, man, it's not that hard. A couple people have to say, okay, and we can have these same big boxing fights in MMA.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, the big boxing fights that are happening between cross promotions, if you did that with MMA, it would be
Be huge.
tenfold. It would be tenfold more exciting. If we got
Oh
to
my God,
see,
yeah.
who is it right now? Is Eblin light heavy or is he middleweight?
I
I think he's middleweight.
think he's middleweight.
So if we
I
if we got
think.
to see Eblin versus Duplessis. That'd be
Oh, that'd be
nuts, right? That'd be
crazy.
super sweet. Or go
That'd
back
be
to one that I said
insane.
earlier. If we got to see DJ versus, and this is no shade on Pantoja, I just Moreno's the bigger name here. But if we got to
Oh
see
yeah,
DJ against Moreno, that'd be huge, you know. So to see,
yeah.
yeah, to see those fights, that'd be sweet. I
Think
hope I
about
see it
Patchy
in my
Mix too.
Patchy
Patchy
Mix
Mix could be the
versus
best bantamweight right now.
Patchy Mix versus Sean. Woo! That'd be a dangerous fight, you know.
Yeah, that'd be a smoker.
Watch your legs. Don't get taken down. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I know. I think Marab is an absolute nightmare for Sean O'Malley. I think.
Yeah, I agree, but he's so damn short. Like Marab,
I
I
know.
think he can be. I'm pretty sure he said he could be a 25er, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
But
he probably could.
he said like the weight cut, isn't a huge one. It was just
Not
more
yet.
matchups at 35 though. But
When he gets older,
yeah,
it'll get
that's a
harder.
different story. But yeah, getting to O'Malley would be tough. O'Malley's impressive. I
He
was
is.
wasn't sold on him until the Aljo fight, and then he did that, and I was like,
Really?
yeah. I mean,
Oh, I've been sold on O'Malley for a long time.
just because. Now, don't get me wrong. It doesn't matter who's in front of you. He's putting people out, right? Like the way he put Edley
Yeah.
Wineland out, the way he put Paiva out. All those dudes, super impressive. But
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know how he was going to do once he got to one of those guys that, like I say, has all that experience. They got the physical, they got the technical, they got the tactical. And dude
Yeah,
passed with flying colors, so it's off to the
he did.
races.
I still think Marab destroys him. And that's the first time I've ever thought anybody could beat O'Malley. Like I don't even think
Really?
I think there's a chance Cheeto could beat him, but I actually think that I know
Cheeto's my
hot
guy.
take.
I love Cheeto.
I love Cheeto too, and I think it would be amazing to have the first Ecuadorian UFC champion. I think that would be insane because I think he
Yeah,
would be the first from Ecuador.
yeah, yeah.
I
Because
believe
there's only like two or three more
there's
in the
not that
UFC
many.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's not a ton of Ecuadorian fighters in the UFC, but and how can you not love Cheeto? I mean, he's got the best
Cool.
personality
Yeah, coolest guy in the UFC. Coolest guy in the
for
UFC.
sure.
And
Coolest guy.
on top of it, he's already a huge star over there. So yeah, it'd be
Yes, he
dope to see
is.
that. But it'd also be dope to see Sugar keep going. I mean, I like them both. I
Yeah.
listen. I tune into both their socials. I tune into both their content, and may the best man win.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I'm leaning towards O'Malley, like I said. But if O'Malley were matched up with Marab, I think it would be a less of a leaning toward, and it would be like yeah, I think Marab is gonna win this. And then, but with Aljamain, I didn't have any doubt that Sean was gonna win
Really.
that fight.
See,
Yeah,
I thought
I think Marab is better than Aljamain. I know it's a hot take, but
I could see that just off of pressure alone, just off of pace alone, because
and I've been saying this for a while. Is I'm not hopping on the Marab hype train,
right.
guys. I've got receipts.
No, we believe you. Check the tape. But
Yeah.
but Aljo, I think, plays a little bit more of a patient game, or maybe
Yes.
not patient is the right word because he wasn't patient when he lunged in for that strike where he got knocked out. But he's not willing to
Yeah.
just go balls to the wall. All right, I'm putting my head in your chest. I'm driving you to the cage. I'm picking you up and I'm taking you down. Like a
Yeah.
Marab. So yeah, I could see that. I could see it going super well for Marab, which would be
Yeah.
awesome.
I think
How crazy
Marab
would that
puts on
be?
an insane pace. Oh, that would be insane.
35 and
Well,
45-pound Georgian champions within a couple
yeah.
months. That'd be nuts.
That would be crazy.
Be
Well,
awesome.
it's almost kind of like what happened with Australia and New Zealand. Like they kind of had their little
The city
run. So
kickboxing
maybe
blow up.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know. It could easily happen. And then, honestly, I think it would be really cool. And this might take probably at least a year or two before he even gets to a title fight, unless he beats Oliveira. But if Sarukian became the first Armenian champion, that would be insane because there's really not even a ton of Armenian fighters to begin with.
I was gonna say I don't know
So
any besides him. So yeah,
yeah,
it'd be huge. Dana be up on the
yeah. I think Petrosian is
Arman
maybe.
Petrosian.
Is he Armenian or is he from? He might be from a different country. I can't remember. I think there's like one or two other
Is his
Armenian
name
fighters,
Arman Petrosian
something like that. Yeah,
and Arman Sarukian?
yeah.
I'm just convinced they all over in Armenia they just named their kid
They
Arman.
name themselves after their own
They
country.
named their kid after the country. Yeah. So yeah,
That's
they got to
gangster.
have a lot of pride in their country.
Yeah. Oh, I know they do. That's why I think it would be awesome if it happened because I know like the Armenian pride is real.
Well,
And it would be dope because right now the only celebrities from Armenia are the freaking Kardashians. We need something better, you know.
that's news to me. I had no idea.
We
So
need fighters.
yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. I agree.
yeah, that'd be funny.
All
But
these
yeah,
all these other countries they get behind their people though like that. Like
mm-hmm.
I don't know who kind of brought it up in the MMA community, but if you're someone from another country other than the US and you do well in the UFC, they freaking love you. And
Oh, you're a king.
you do
Yeah,
decent in the UFC as a American, as a person from the
you
United
suck.
States, and they're like, "This MFer, he did this and this and this 6 years ago. How about that, guys?" Hmm? Yeah. So they back their
Yeah,
people.
it's
It's awesome to
crazy.
see.
What is something that you wish that non MMA practitioner or non MMA people, fans, casual, we'll call them casual fans. I know there's a negative connotation with that, but what I mean when I say that
General
is people who
watchers.
don't train, people who've never been punched in the face, people who just watch it, or maybe they don't even hardly watch it, but they know about MMA. What's one thing that you wish, or maybe a couple things that you wish that those people knew about fighters?
Oh man, two of them, two right off the bat. Before you go out to fight, or we'll even take fight day just to make it more broad. Fight day, waking up and managing your energy from the time you wake up until the time that commission guy says, "Martinelli, you're up. Let's go." The like the balance of nerves during that time and the little shit that can go wrong.
Oh God,
Like
yeah,
for my last fight, I had not the best weight cut, not like a bad weight cut, but I was in the sauna for two 20-minute sessions extra than what I had planned on, right? So I was already
mm,
dehydrated and stuff, and I had to do
yeah,
40 more minutes in the sauna than I expected. So the next day I woke up and I felt like I just had I felt like I had strep throat, where you couldn't swallow or
ugh,
it was tender
yeah,
to swallow, and it was like my throat was burnt from being so dry and sitting in the sauna and then having to go back out, take the plastics off, take your clothes off, check. Notice that you're still a pound and a half over, and then go back in for 20 more minutes or so. And just all that little stuff that you don't, because you think these guys wake up, like you think Volk woke up on Saturday, body battery on 100%, legs feeling good, immune issues non-existent. You think all that, but you don't know if he was, you know, his legs were dead from the weight cut. You don't know if he had
yeah,
a sinus ache from the airplane ride over. You don't know what people go through. So the
yeah,
day of the fight, just balancing those nerves and balancing like your physical well being. Like try that and then try to go fight someone
yeah.
24, maybe 20, maybe 16 hours later. and then give me all that insight on what I should be doing and how I should do it and the energy that I should do it with. All right, so that's the day of.
Yeah.
The biggest one is like the number one. And that just goes for anyone that is looking to, they want to grapple, right? Come grapple with me for 2 minutes, all right? And then after 2 minutes, look at the clock and see that we have 3 minutes left. And then figure out a way to conserve your energy. Like when you're grappling or throwing strikes and trying to grapple, the exhaustion that comes over you with the nerves on top of it when you're in the fight is insane. You could have done, like, I pride myself on being someone that has really good cardio. And I do have good cardio. But on the night of the fight, it doesn't matter how good a cardio you have, you get tired. So it's like, how do you manage that once you're tired without letting that person across from you see, like, oh, he's taking a little bit longer on the stool. He's taking some big breaths. His mouth's open when he's breathing, when I'm fighting. So, yeah, those two things. Figure out how to get through fight day and figuring out how to manage the exhaustion of another person physically trying to stop you 100% and you're physically trying to advance on them 100%. Those two things are like so unknown. And whenever people figure them out, that's when, what's it called? That's the humbling experience, is when someone comes in and they're like, let's go 5 minutes. And you go for a minute and they're like, I can't breathe, man. I can't breathe. Let's just give me a minute. It's like, no, we got 4 more, dude. We got 4 more. Figure out a way to manage that energy. So yeah, those two
Oh
things,
God,
those are
yeah.
big. Those are big ones.
It's huge. And that's like, I get so annoyed when I hear, like, oh, like complaining about the grappling
Why
and
are they
like,
clinching?
there's hugging.
Yeah, they're hugging. Why are they not raining down punches? It's like, well,
Yeah.
I'm trying
Just
to.
bleed.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say earlier that I forgot. You were saying how hard it is to manage, the scrambling transitions.
Mm-hmm.
When you're trying to hold someone down and they're trying their best to get up, but at the same time you have to factor in, okay, I have to hold this person down, but I also have to land damaging strikes. It's like
Yes.
that's an art on its own, and keeping
Oh my
someone
God,
pinned in
yeah.
one spot, but also delivering damage. So yeah, I mean, grappling in MMA is it's it's the hardest part of MMA, and for good reason. It's exhausting. It takes a lot of technical skill, and it also takes a lot of endurance,
Yeah.
and it's hard to
A lot
see
of
from the
focus too.
outside. It's hard to see it's hard to see when you're eating your Domino's or your Buffalo Wild Wings and you got a belly full of beer and you're buzzing a little bit
I
and you're
could
like,
kick this guy's
I'd
ass.
whoop his butt, man. Why don't you just throw an elbow? It's like, well, the elbow that you want me to throw is securing an underhook. So I'm sorry, but I'm not Shiva from Mortal Kombat. I don't have 6 arms. All right, So let's take it easy, man. I'm controlling the position. I'll advance whenever I have a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, like, why don't you come in here and do it since you're so much better?
Yeah, let's see it.
You couldn't even make the weight, buddy. Come on.
Yeah, that's the first hard part.
Yeah, first you gotta get up off the couch. That's
Yeah,
step 1.
yeah, yeah.
Step 2, you gotta stop eating everything you like.
Get some training in. Get in
Yeah,
physical
which
shape.
you'll probably be exhausted before the class is
Yeah,
over.
yeah, yeah. During the warm up, they're gonna be like, "Are we done yet? We've been doing this for 10 minutes."
I remember my first boxing class, like, because I had done some boxing, quote unquote, boxing classes before.
Like
But
Pat.
it's like not even that. Like, it's, what was the gym I went to? 9 Round. That was the first one, which I actually really did enjoy going there, and it was a good introduction, I will say, before actually training, because I kind of like was comfortable hitting a bag at least. I didn't have any technique at all, but I couldn't even throw a proper jab.
Was that hey, yeah, we all started off like that. Was that in Brentwood?
No, this is when I lived in Austin. So it was
Oh,
in Cedar Park, I think, was
oh,
the
you lived in
neighborhood it was
Austin?
in. Yeah, I only lived there for a year, but
When was that?
yeah. That was when I moved there literally the week after I turned 21, which is really stupid. But I lived there, let's see, that was
Was
2016.
that before everyone from California moved there?
It was like while they were moving there,
Oh wow.
kind of.
Okay. So it was like in the heat
But
of the
it
moment.
was, but not like the new wave. Because I have people that I talk to still from Austin, that I'm still friends with, and they'll be like, "Dude, it's not even the same as when you were here."
Yeah.
And when I moved there, people were like, "Oh, it's not the same as it used to be." But now they're like, "No, it's really not the same now."
It's never going to be the same as it used to be. Everything changes.
Yeah,
Change is the only constant in life. That's
exactly.
something I learned from
That's facts.
my my biology teacher in college. Stuck with me for a
That's
while.
facts.
Change is the only constant in life. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
write it down.
But yeah, I started going there. Yeah, I was like, I think at that point I was still 21, but I was like a little bit. I had lived in Austin for a minute when I started training there, I think.
Are you from St. Louis?
But yeah. Yeah, I've lived here my whole life, so.
Nice.
I mean, not in St. Louis, like I lived in the city, St. Louis City for a while.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was an
So did
experience.
I.
I loved it until
Your car got broken into
one,
twice.
well, that I got over that easily.
Yeah. I didn't. I lived there for a minute and my car got broken into twice, and I was like,
You're like,
"What am I
damn, this
doing?
place is dangerous.
What am I doing here? Let's
Yeah.
let's move 6 blocks over, and we'll be good."
Yes. I did the same thing. I moved from Soulard. I started in Soulard, then I went to Bevo Mill, then I moved to Austin, then I moved back to Soulard, and then I moved to Dogtown, which I thought was,
Dogtown's nice.
safe. It is. But there was a
Dogtown's
shooting right across from my place, and then I was like, I'm out.
So hold on. Dogtown's like right by IKEA? Like south?
No,
South of
that's
Manchester from IKEA?
it. I lived right by Manchester and 44, I want to say. But I lived on Hampton.
Okay,
So
I lived in Central West End for a while, and that was like gnarly.
Yeah.
One
yeah,
way,
Central West
a
End's
couple blocks
crazy.
was good. One way, a couple blocks was like, don't go over there,
That's
dude.
the problem with it. It's so block to block there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I felt pretty safe, but it started to get to the point where like I would go outside to take my dog out, and there would be a homeless lady screaming at me, and then there was
I
like
love
another time where I went outside to take my dog out, and there was a man sleeping on the concrete right next to where I take my dog out, and I think he was just like hungover or something. I don't know. Maybe he like
It was just blacked
lost
out.
his friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. I don't think he like was homeless. I think he just like
I got a good
was
story for you.
out for the count.
Right along them lines. Right along them lines. I got the one. When I lived in Central West End, I lived in an apartment building, right?
Uh-huh.
And so the apartment buildings, you go downstairs to the laundry room, and there's 6 laundry machines, 6 dryers, and there's a closet,
Yeah.
right? I'm doing my laundry one night, like 10:15, 10:30 at night, maybe 11 or so. I go down there. I'm already kind of sketched out of being in the area. Like, I went to school at Lindenwood, Belleville, over in Belleville, obviously.
Okay.
So it wasn't like city over there, but whenever I moved over here, it was like, boom, you're in the city, man. So I'm doing my laundry that night. I go downstairs, going to switch my laundry from wash to dryer, and I hear the closet door close. Boom, closet door shuts. And I was like, you kind of get a little jump. You're like, what was that? So me not knowing really what to do, I was like, I gotta go see. I gotta go see what's in here. Run over to the door,
God.
open it real quick, and there's a homeless person with mountains of clothes in there, just sleeping on people's clothes. And I got so freaked out, man. I was like, shut the door, ran over, loaded my laundry up, ran up to my room, told my roommate, I was like, yo, there's a homeless person sleeping in the laundry room. We went down there, opened the door, he's gone. My roommate's like, man, are you okay? Are you lying? Are you freaking? Is there something you wanted me to come down here for, or what? It's like, no, man. I know there was a homeless person. I just seen him. So yeah, I mean, be careful for walking into laundry rooms late at night if you're living in the St. Louis area, or at least
That
be
would have
aware that you might
freaked
run
me
into
out.
somebody that you're not looking to run into.
Yeah, I would have literally screamed. I probably wouldn't have screamed. I probably just would have I would have stood there for a second, processed it, and then ran out of there. I would have been like, whoa.
There was no processing it. There was just slam the door and get the F out, man. I don't know what this guy's
though?
about
I
to do.
think that's why I started training, though. Because
Yeah.
I felt unsafe.
Yeah, I mean, and so now that you do, you feel more safe.
Still feel unsafe.
Still feel unsafe. Still need to grind that axe just a little bit more. Yeah, no, I get it. For sure.
No, I mean, I feel safer than I used to because, I know not as many people are going to mess with me as they would before. Not even because I would be able to do anything, but I think it's more so the mindset that, okay, I could, defend myself, at least much better than I could before.
The confidence
So
that
having
you
that
give off, right?
confidence.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the confidence that you have. It's like if somebody comes in and picks something with you, it's like, I'm not going to be one of those people that shrivel up. It's like, all right, man, you want to pick this? All right, here we go. let me see how this 1-2 works. Let me see how this one dig to the body 3-2-5 works that Rick showed me today.
Exactly. Yeah, I've been waiting to test this out. Let's go.
Exactly. Just learned this today.
That's funny. Yeah, I was curious about that. But I don't know. I mean, I really did enjoy living in the city. It was scary though. But I did enjoy it. There are a lot of things I miss about it, but I don't know if it's in me to move back.
Just being close to everything.
That's it.
Yeah.
But you can be close to everything and live in Maplewood or somewhere like that.
I lived in Maplewood. Yeah, Maplewood's great. I
Yeah.
love Maplewood. But yeah,
Maplewood's
it's
awesome.
I mean, even in whether you're in the city or right outside it within the county lines, it's just having that 10-15 minute drive to whatever you need to get to that makes it nice.
Yeah.
Or like whenever I lived down in Central West End, it was so nice to be able to run a quarter of a mile to Forest Park and then do your entire morning run in Forest Park and stuff like that.
I loved running there. That was the best.
Oh, it was, yeah. Go down to Art Hill, but
yeah, that was nice.
Take the good.
I did get my credit card stolen there though.
At Forest Park?
Actually, my whole wallet.
Wow.
Yeah, everything.
You dropped it?
I think I dropped it.
Yeah.
I came back literally within a minute. It was gone.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of traffic there. There's a lot
and
of traffic.
They already tried to use it on my way back.
Oh, of course. They watched it fall out.
And
they watched you leave, and they're like, okay, now go.
Like, I need a new TV.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Exactly.
Yeah, luckily it was like the charge was like too much. They went crazy. So it didn't go through. But
You would think someone,
it's like,
you'd think they'd be a little bit smarter. Like, let's just get a
yeah,
pack of
let's
smokes and
test it out. Yeah.
yeah, get something that
See if
I
this
buy
works.
on the everyday basis rather than going out and getting a new TV, renting a U-Haul.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, why don't you guys steal from somebody that has money? Why are you stealing from me? I'm like, we're in the same position, dude.
Yeah, for sure. The worst thing about whenever I lived down there, my car got broken into twice, right?
Yeah.
And I've never had anything stolen out of it. I've only had the windows broken out and then stuff
Really?
like rummaged through and like pulled out and
Huh.
thrown
Weird.
all over the car. And it's like, they went through here. They're like, well, this guy doesn't have shit that we need. So move on to the next one.
They're like, what are these gloves and all
Yeah,
these
what is
hand
this?
wraps?
What is this
What am I
stuff?
gonna do
We're
with
not going to use
this?
this. Looking for a freaking gun or something. I'm looking for some money. Not going to find it in my
Yeah.
car.
No, me neither. You you mess with the wrong people here. Yeah, we got nothing for you. You know what I was thinking about though? Speaking of St. Louis, how cool would it be if at some point, and I know they've had UFC cards here before, but if it was like a really cool event for St. Louis, like if they had, you know, if we could get to the point where we had somebody in the UFC from St. Louis that could like, well, I guess Michael Chandler could be it to headline a main event.
I was going to say, who do we
Somebody
have?
from St. Louis. Yeah, we pretty much just have Michael Chandler right now.
No. Well, we got Chandler, House Springs. We got
To
Buckley.
headline.
Yeah.
Oh,
To
Buckley
headline.
could. He's probably almost at the point where he could headline if he gets this win over Luque.
Or even just stack it. Like, we got Chandler.
Yeah.
We got Buckley. We got Evan.
Mm-hmm.
We got Woodson.
Yep.
Shoot, that's
Garrett.
damn. We got Armfield. That's damn near the whole main card. And then bring in some of these regional prospects. Bring in some Kansas City prospects. No, that'd be sweet. But
Oh yeah, like a set an STL versus KC
STL
kind of thing
versus
too.
KC.
Hey,
Missouri
on home turf.
Missouri Battle Royale. Battle of the Borders.
Yeah.
Call it. Here it is. Call it this, Bree. The border brawl. This border versus that border. Come in and brawl. Right? It's a good one.
Yeah.
McMaynard.
I
Sean
wonder if
Shelby.
Taylor Swift would show up for any of the Kansas City fighters. I mean, probably
100%.
not.
She's there. She's already there.
Her and Travis Kelce are cage side.
Yeah. Sponsoring the
They're
event.
rooting for all the Kansas City fighters, and we're boo. Taylor Swift sucks.
Yeah.
They all walk out to Taylor Swift songs.
Boom.
We all walk out to Nelly songs.
Now we're talking. But when was the last time UFC was in St. Louis? Have they had one?
It's been a while. It was definitely before COVID.
But they have had one.
They just had one in Kansas City not too long ago, but
Yeah, that was
St. Louis.
That was where who did Arnold Allen fight on that? Is that where he fought Max?
What? Oh yeah.
He was the headliner, right?
I think it was. Yes.
Because it's seen Arnold was staying in Arnold, Missouri. Came by, take a little look at his town. I love Arnold Allen, so anything he does, I
he's
take
great.
note of. And yeah, I seen
he's
he was
awesome.
around the area. I was like, Arnold, where are you staying, man? He's like, I'm already on, mate. Good city, but wasn't very good of a hotel. Like, yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
Where'd you stay? South
Classic.
City? Yeah.
Right. Classic Missouri. Yeah, I think that would be awesome. I think it needs to happen. And then, you know, if Dakota wins this next fight, you know, he could end up back in the UFC. We've got a lot of great fighters here that are possibly, you know, be in the UFC at some point.
Climbing the ranks for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is Dakota's Dakota Push?
Mm-hmm.
Is his next one? So if he wins this fight, he's getting decent. He's got a decent opportunity of getting a shot back in.
I think so. I
Wow.
think that it's just going to depend on the matchups probably in the UFC. Because the only complication with him is that he's in the toughest division, a lightweight.
Yeah.
So it is obviously going to be harder for him to get back there than it would be for somebody who's fighting at heavyweight or light heavyweight or something like that.
Flyweight.
But flyweight, they need
Flyweight.
you. They need you.
I would like to see how many flyweights are on the UFC roster. You know,
Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
is there like
I
12,
don't even know.
14, 15?
You would think there'd be more.
There's probably like 20 or so, but there's not many.
Yeah.
There's a oh, another one we forgot from St. Louis, Charles Johnson.
Oh, yeah, we did forget him. Sorry,
Throw him
Charles.
right on. Sorry, Charles.
He's coming off a win, isn't he?
Yeah, how sweet was that fight?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember the dude's name, but he was an undefeated
I know.
prospect coming from, I don't know, I want to say Kyrgyzstan. And it was like it seemed like Charles had those fights like every fight in his career in the UFC. There's like some undefeated prospect from Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Dagestan, like just some super
killers.
hard fight. And that last fight, to see him weather that early storm and then get it done in the end, that was sweet, man. That was an awesome fight. So props Charles Johnson.
Yeah. That's the other thing about fighting at those lower weight classes. I feel like it's because it's so hard to match that a lot of times, you know, you either are on the good end of a difficult matchup or the bad end, and it can be challenging to get proper matchups in those divisions. I feel like
for sure it can, but what do you think is the most technical division in the UFC?
Probably bantamweight.
Non-biased, yeah. That's a hard one to argue with. I'm a little bit biased, so I would say flyweight. But yeah, I mean, the lighter you go, the more well-rounded you have to be at everything.
Yes,
more well-rounded you got to be at
correct.
wrestling. More well-rounded you got to be at striking. More well-rounded you got to be at your jiu-jitsu offense and defense. So yeah, going back to the matchups, it's like it's hard to get a quote-unquote good matchup at flyweight because everyone is so damn good.
And it's harder to finish fights in those divisions too.
Oh, 100%.
Because you don't have that one-hit power.
Right,
we're
slinging all of our
bones. Does.
Yeah, we're throwing all of our power, all of our everything we have into it, and it's like this dude's just standing out here and laughing at me at my shots. So
yeah,
take that Nate Diaz style, I guess. Death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah. Well, and I think too that in the smaller divisions that, you know, it is harder, I think. And that's why, you know, we saw that statistic come out where fighters who are 35 and over are 1-22 in title fights in the divisions 170 and below.
Oh, it's 170 and below, not 55. Oh, well, yeah, I guess.
Or maybe below 170. That might be 170.
It. But yeah, it's something right there in that middle range. So yeah, I mean that just backs it up because, and then you look at the opposite side of that. Look at Glover, 42, winning the championship.
Yeah.
So, but also
at light heavyweight though.
At light heavyweight, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Divisions.
It's like when you're a bigger person. But that's I always say this to people when they ask about it. That's a different sport than what I do. Once you get over 155, 170, that's a different sport than what I do. Like
I agree.
Looking at some of the guys, like let's take Sulla for example. Right. If you look at his shin and calf, and you imagine that cracking you in the head, full kick, 100%.
Yeah.
It's like you're gonna question. I don't know if I want to do this sport. But whenever I look at a 125er shin or their elbow or something, it's like I could take that. I could take that and keep walking forward. It's like, man, I think the weight classes, once you get to those heavier weights, it's just you're playing a little bit different game than whenever you're scrapping and using your speed and your balance. I went to a DJ seminar one time and he talked so much about balance. And it's like if you keep a good balance, especially at a lighter weight, if you're if you got a good stance, if you're, you know, mindful of your balance, it's hard to knock someone down, especially if you're conditioned, right? Because I think if you have good conditioning, you can eat an easier shot, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows, like, if you don't do the conditioning, if you don't get your rounds of sparring in, those shots aren't going to be easier to take. So, yeah, I would think twice about doing the sport if I was 155, 170, 185, 205,
Yeah,
265,
it's
whatever those monsters are up there.
crazy.
Right.
Yeah. That is, it's, I mean, and even some of the like middleweights, their power is almost like a heavyweight at this point. Just the way they can
Middleweight.
put people away.
What is
But I
Go
feel like
ahead.
middleweight is a much more technical division than we give it credit for sometimes.
Oh, for sure. I mean, shoot,
It's not a deep division, but it's technical.
just look at I think probably two, and even if you throw in three, I mean, you can go two. You can go two of the best. And look at Alex Pereira. Look at John Jones. Like those dudes crack freaking people, but they're
Yeah.
you could drop weights, two or three weights, and they would be same level of skills. So yeah, I mean, it's that's a different sport that I'm not interested in to taste in any of those shots. I'll stick down here with the fly guys.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, it does make it a different game though. You're right, because you have to be more conscious of winning rounds as well as trying to finish the fight, because, you know, the chances that you don't finish the fight are a lot higher in those smaller weight classes. So you have to be conscious. You have to have really high fight IQ, I
Right, the
think, to
game planning.
compete.
Yeah, the game planning has to be there.
The nerds. You're
Yeah,
the
yeah,
nerds.
yeah. You
That's
have
what
to
you
nerd
are.
out before. You have to nerd out for 6 weeks to plan. Like, well, what am I going to do this guy to
Yeah.
accumulate damage? Because I know I'm not just going to put one on his kisser and he's going to go to sleep. We're not all.
Yep.
We're not all Alex Pereira. We're not all Ilya Taporia. But fingers crossed, maybe we can get there someday.
I mean, yeah, well, what Taporia was 14-0 going into this title fight. I mean,
Yeah,
that's crazy, honestly, to get to a title fight that fast in today's era of MMA.
it is. It's also crazy to see some of these guys. I guess not break under the pressure of that. Oh, like I keep going back to the card this weekend, but Ilya and Ian this weekend. I was like, man, those dudes have so much riding on their O. Because I was
Yeah.
just undefeated last year, only at 3-0, and it was like that was the whole thing. Let me go in here and how do I stay undefeated? And I'm doing it at a regional level. To do that,
Yeah.
like on the top level, against the top contenders competition, it's like, damn, man, you have to have some serious mental strength. I mean, you gotta be locked down mentally to go in there, and the confidence Ilya had going in was that was awesome to see. It's like, okay, man, that's inspiring. That's great to see
Yeah.
somebody go in there like, I know what I'm going to do. I've done it this fight, and this fight, and I'm about to do it this fight. So
Oh,
yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I think his confidence really aged well. I
Oh,
guess you could
100%.
say.
Hey, he
Um,
rolled the dice, and he hit the perfect number.
he did, and when you have that much hype and it works out, it only will. I mean, he could be like the next Connor. We don't know. He could be, or he could be the first Ilya. You know.
The first Ilya, I would say. He's the ultimate the thing that sets him apart, where I watch people that are kind of breaking it down on this Monday after. They're like, everything he does is a superstar. Well, it's like what you're really
Yes.
saying there is the professionalism of this guy in every aspect is 110%, right? His fighting, his technique, his content, his
Yeah.
confidence, his image, the way he presents
His
himself
whole
as a
brand.
professional.
Yeah.
Yeah, his brand is just like, yeah, you're at the front of the line. Go ahead, bro. You passed all of us. You
Yeah.
you got it. You know.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's insane. I'm excited for the Taporia era of featherweight. I'm so sad because I was such a big Volkanovski fan.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I do think there's definitely still something there with Volk. I don't think he's done by any means. I think he just maybe needs some time off and then get right back to it. I think yeah, that was hard for him to take that fight at short notice, get knocked out, and then go right back into a title fight. I'm like, God. Like I kind of
Yeah.
had a feeling that that was a possibility, which
It
was scary.
it's like, yeah, it's the question we'll never know, but it's crazy to see someone like Volk that has like, if you follow him on his YouTube, you follow him on his socials, you know that he has like the highest level of people working with him. So you wonder to
Yep.
yourself, like, man, did you guys question, is this concussion protocol long enough, or
Yeah.
are we taking long enough, or did you guys really feel like, hey, we did all the research, we know what we're doing, the science is going to back this, we did the right things, he's 100%, and Ilya is just that good. So you don't know. We'll never know now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know. It's crazy because that was his first loss ever at featherweight
yeah.
in
And
his
and
entire
and
career.
besides that, what has he lost at? Like welterweight or something?
Yeah, I think he's lost at lightweight, both to Islam.
Right.
And then his other loss, I believe, was at
Like
welterweight.
pre UFC when at welterweight, right?
Way before UFC, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, man, what
Insane.
what did they say? How the what a butterfly effect Charles getting cut had on
Yeah.
Volk, and that it's just the rest of the division, both 55 and 45.
Yeah. Insane.
Yeah.
Insane. Man, well, we're going to have to do another episode because I feel like we have so much more to discuss.
I'm down. We got to run part 2.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Awesome. Well, is there anything else you want to leave the audience with before we go? Anything else you want to say?
Oh
I know you
man.
got your fight coming up,
Yeah, I got
March
my fight
29th.
coming up. We'll
I
get
got it
into
right.
that more whenever we talk next time, I guess. I got LFA coming up March 29th. It's LFA 180 at the Broadbent Arena in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm fighting Josh Pereira. It's a tough opponent.
Yeah.
I know he's ranked similar to me in the Tapology and where we're at in the Midwest. Similar skill
Yeah,
level.
he's legit.
Yeah, I know he's a great opponent. I was excited to get it. It's not like an opponent where I don't want to shit on
Get you
any.
motivated.
Yeah, I don't want to shit on any opponents, but some of them, like this is a good matchup for me, and then some of them,
Yeah.
this is going to be a tough one. So this is one of those where it's going to be a tough fight. It's going to be a battle. He comes out of a good gym. He likes a similar style to me. I think he's prefers grappling, but at the same time, he's explosive. He'll throw wild stuff on the feet. Yeah, and I'm gonna shut it all down and smash him. It's gonna be awesome.
Woo!
Other than that,
I'm usually unbiased, but anytime, just so people know, anytime an ES MMA person is fighting, I am allowed to be biased and root for
100%.
my. I'm able to root for my ES MMA people.
We raised the ES
every
MMA
time.
roof. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. No. LFA 180. Jesse Martinelli versus Josh
super
Pereira
excited.
going down March 29th. We'll get more into it sometime. I appreciate you having me on, Bree, and
of course,
rock and roll. Can't wait to talk to you in the future.
Yeah. Sounds good. I'll see you at the gym next time. I'll be there tomorrow, but whenever you're there, I'll see you.
We'll see you then. Have a good night.
All right. I'll see you. Peace.
Peace.